You're like me and you're a fan of Tom Waits and Massive Attack, this was an interesting crossover in the Academy of Consequences. Um, and then, of course, Boards of Canada dropped their media piece. That's what I'm going to call it. It's mixed media. Excuse me. And I watched the music video for Boots on the Ground earlier today, and I'm not happy about it. I don't think I don't think the intention is to inspire happiness or in your household. Although it is very important to have happiness in your household. Um, but yeah, this I'm still kind of mixed on this. Am I happy that they did it? Yeah, I'm glad they did it. I'm glad they had a collaboration. Um, and I have a tendency to stay an arm's length away from American politics, unlike some other Canadian musicians or artists that seem to think that their voices in and by throwing their hat into the realm of American politics is going to get them more sales and to appease their American fans. But I really don't think it does. I think it's disingenuous. I think it's the greatest crime or the greatest insult to an artist is to say that they lack authenticity. And I would have to say that. I would say that their words lack authenticity. And, you know, Massive Attack is an English band. Um, Typically, their work is more psychedelic, or shall I say, inspired by drum and bass or like jungle music. And really influential, seriously influential, especially having to do with the history of electronic music in the UK. Um, the UK was one of the first adopters of electronic music and the rave scene. So, um, with all these people that were ranting and raving over the past, it said the 6 years with the photojournalist, documenting all of these of what people want to be a new civil war. That's exactly what they were. The funders of these protests say, like the No Kings protests. Like if you see mentioned, so it turned into like this festival kind of thing with huge uh, concert level productions, the size of like Kanye West, like all the stage, it's like South by Southwest even. We're just gonna have this grand old party funded by millions of dollars from people that we don't even know their names or their faces. It's just like okay, and I'm gonna give a shout out to Adbusters here in my youthful years of rebellion. And one of the great questions from the era thereafter, like immediately after the Twin Towers, was Que Bueno, who benefits from this disaster, right? Again, another shout out to Naomi Klein with um, the shock doctrine, right? Who benefits from this chaos? Because there's obviously someone that does, you know. um, and it used as these people being used as pawns on a huge, gigantic continent wide chessboard for the purposes of their own ends. So they're the means to their own ends. And I gotta tell you, it's a particular religious group, and I'm not gonna say their name or anything like that because they're like Voldemort. As soon as you speak about them, they're on your front doorstep. They're sending the police after you with a mental health check to see if you're okay. And I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that the enforcement of free speech is through the jackboot of a police officer. I don't think the responsibility of a police officer or a peace officer is to enforce censorship. I really don't. Now, again, I speak from experience. Um, I did not appreciate the treatment that I received. The path to hell is paved with good intentions, and this toxic empathy thing. Love everyone, care for everyone. You know, love conquers all. I don't believe that. I really don't. My heart is broken. Okay, my heart has been trampled on. It's been stomped on into the dust. I have no sympathy for any of this shit. I got none. If what's this thing I saw earlier today is that if you ignore the red flags because you want to see the best, you want to see the good in other people, you're going to get screwed every single time. Every single time. Um, and again, I'm no bootlicker. I try to humanize people. I try to see them um for being a human being, right? Not just the labels that for which they excuse me, the labels that for which they slap on themselves or that they demand of other people in order for them to have this identity and this orientation in life, this direction. Oh, you have to do this, you have to be this in order to fit in with this group and this political allegiance. You have to do this and be this in order to fit in and be part of this social hierarchy and so on and so forth. And it's just this debate. It's this consistent discourse between order and chaos. And I mentioned something about that with my review of Civil War, right? Because that's what they wanted. That was their masturbation fantasy, was to inspire an uprising in which the president of the United States would be assassinated. It would be dragged out in the streets, and all the Congress people would be shot in their homes, and so on and so forth, just by the mere fact that they're in a position of power. Are there people in positions of power that abuse their position? Absolutely. Are there police officers that are dirty and will fuck you in the ass without a condom? Absolutely. I'm telling you. Will they beat the shit out of you because they don't like you? Yes, some of them do exist. Some of them do, right? Few and far between, but they do. And they're not as easy to out as you think they are. All right. So like these protests and all that other stuff, it's what was the point? What was the point? It was to destroy private property, to threaten peaceful people in their own neighborhoods, to tear down all of these statues of these people that of our history or their history that have that actually had to experience mass scale bloodshed in order for you to have your rights to protest on the street with wearing next to nothing, while you ram your dicks down children's throats with your philosophy and your fucking bullshit and your mental problems. Like, fuck right off, honestly. Like, there's two sides to everything, and I read this the first time and I'm like, okay, so I kind of get it. There's like two sides to this, right? It doesn't, to me, feel like it hits the nail on the head. um Are they looking to crucify someone? No, I don't think Tom Waits and Massive Attack are looking to crucify someone. But there are people out there that are looking to crucify someone, to make an example of someone on a consistent basis in order to keep their regime in power. And it's not who you think it is. It's not who you think it is. And they hold the United States by the balls because they're pointing nukes at us or at them. It's been going on like this for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years. So, you know, say what you will. But, I don't support them. I don't support their Zionism. I don't support Chabad or anything that for which they do, like buying up all of these single family homes and extorting people through the market by holding on to them, and then using their money to lobby Congress into passing these bills that only benefit them, right? And there, okay, so I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna read this, and now that I've done my rant, right? Big legs dangle from a helicopter hole. Big chug rhythm. It's got to be now ho. Brown, mean and young, dumb and full of cum. What can you use a marine for? This is fucking ass machine gun war. With your boots on the ground, boots on the ground, boots on the ground, boots on the ground. We trim your hedges, we fight your wars, wait in the trenches, and we fuck till we're sore. Boots on the ground, boots on the ground. Born shiny bullets in an army of ants. Blow that horn, we sleep in our pants. Big titties, we'll holler and we'll burn down cities. Boots on the ground, boots on the ground. Shooting up the town, staying in the hole until Jimmy Hoffa is found with my boots on the ground. Well, something goes tink when the cartridge is spent. Where do you think all your cartilage went? Boots on the ground, boots on the ground. Now, who the hell are these federal pricks hiding in the Senate like a bloated ass tick? Air-conditioned fuckstick loafers sitting in a room full of army posters. A coal to a diamond, a vote into law. They campaigned all the blood so that they can draw. Mold your world, the soldiers just clay. How much does every soldier weigh? Cut you off at the ankles and they throw that away. Boots on the ground. It's cold and hot as Satan's hoof, spinning on the world as I'm hiding on a roof. I kill a brown man I never asked knew, choked on spit and then he turned blue. He spattered black blood, he rolled Finn out. He died right here and I got the pearl from his snout. A puff of gray smoke from the tongue of a cloud. He rotted in the sand and all that they found was his boots on the ground, boots on the ground, boots on the ground. All they found was his boots on the ground, boots on the ground. Now, obviously, they're referring to George Floyd. And George Floyd was no saint, okay? He was no saint. In my opinion, if he didn't get arrested that day, he was going to get arrested on another day, and he probably would have killed some woman. He probably would have killed some woman. And then no one would have had sympathy for him. No one would have been rioting in the streets. The only reason why people rioted in the streets was because they were inspired to, right? Someone fanned the flames. They wanted to take advantage of the opportunity in order to go after, frankly, President Trump. That's what they wanted. They wanted to make President Trump look like a fucking idiot. And, I think President Trump does a very damn good job of doing that on his own. I don't think he needs any help. I don't think he wants any help. He does a very good job of playing the idiot. He does. And there was times where you got to think of these people as people with senses of humor, okay? You can't just like look at a statesman and say, oh, they're in an isolated room all the time, or that they exist in a vacuum, that they're not influenced by the world at large. You know, I think that's a very ignorant and stupid thing to think that all of these people are psychopaths, all of these people are narcissists, all of these people in power, the only thing that they care about is themselves. I think that's a very cold ass honky statement to say. Again, there's this attitude, right? It's a slave mentality. It's a slave mentality of us versus the state, or us versus the plantation owners, and people just keep holding on to this. It's been fucking 200 years, okay? Grow the fuck up, honestly. And what are you gonna do? You're gonna wreck your neighborhoods? I remember seeing this thing, and it was a black man, right? And it was during one of these protests, and he was saying, you know, and he's yelling at them, right? You like these young people in their masks or whatever. They're trying to use black bloc tactics or something like that, and it's a black man. He's a black business owner, and he's yelling at them. It's like, what are you doing raiding my fucking store, right? What are you doing? You think this is you think this is a real protest? MLK Jr. would have laughed hysterically at BLM. He would have laughed at them. He would have laughed at them. He would have spoke out against them in his church service. He would have called them, you know, fucking idiots, but in much more polite terms. Because the goal was chaos. And that's it. You know, and the same for some of these other protests is that they take advantage of the opportunity. Like, look at what was happening in Minnesota, okay? You know what was happening in Minnesota? There was money laundering schemes going on, right? And then if I'm going to use an example here in Canada, we allowed Indians to, with open arms, right? We gave them these policies and these assistance programs, and so they could get jobs, and then they get into the government, and then they start exploiting it for their own benefit. Start selling visas and shit like that to their countrymen because they're not Canadians. You know how long it takes to get a citizenship here in Canada? It takes 7 years. 7 years, okay? There are consequences to our actions and consequences to other people's actions. So, if someone is here on an expired visa, bye-bye. Bye-bye, sayonara. I'm sorry. You take advantage of the system. That's it, right? You backhand someone because of their kindness. That's how it is. You come here, we educate you, we give you a free ride. I know sometimes it isn't a free ride, but nonetheless, in comparison, to how some of these veterans are treated, because that's what the music video mentions. It's disgusting, right? That's what they're highlighting here. Is just like, okay, well, yeah, well, we don't give a shit about the soldiers, and they're all killing themselves because, well, what did they do? They were the instrument of foreign policy, and they were the long spiny finger of a particular country that's been extorting the United States since 1946. I gotta tell you, I got more to say, but I want to keep this to 20 minutes. Anyways, I think it's a half decent song, but there's some things to do, and we're gonna have to roll our sleeves up, not necessarily elbows up, but we're gonna have to do some dirty work, and we can't expect the soldiers to do it themselves.